Welcome back folks to the channel on this glorious spring day on the 29th of April 2026 on the banks of the River Calder, where today we look at another plant in our botanical series known as the White Dead-nettle or Lamium album, a plant in the family Lamiaceae or the mint family. As the weir on the River Calder bubbles and babbles behind us, let's jump straight in and look at the vegetative and floristic characteristics of this plant. Welcome folks to another episode of Wildlife Ranger, where today, the 29th of April, we've come alongside the River Calder to look at a specific plant. The plant that we are looking at today is White Dead-nettle or Lamium alba, and that is a plant in the family Lamiaceae. The plant itself is a plant of waste places, roadsides, and it's generally indicative of good nitrogen levels. We've actually had to cut our way using these tough cut scissors, which are very useful to carry through fairly dense bramble to get at the plant. So the plant itself grows between 20 and 50 centimetres, and like most of the Lamiaceae, it is hairy and the stem itself is square. White dead-nettle is in fact a dead-nettle, i.e. it doesn't sting. However, these chaps, which it's embedded in, do. So here we have the plant, a little bit of a scent on it. As you can see, like all of the Lamiaceae, or most of the Lamiaceae, the stem is square and hairy. The leaves are nettle-like, between 7 and 10 centimetres, and are sharply serrated. I don't know if the camera will pick that out, but those are the nettle-like leaves which are sharply serrated. So that's some of the vegetative characteristics. As we move up the plant, we can see the floristics consist of a whorl of white flowers between 4 and 10. And these white flowers are composed of an upper lip, which is hooded, and a calyx tube which bends upwards with a ring of dense hairs. The lower lip, as you can see, like most of the Lamiaceae, provides a landing pad. So that is the floristic characteristic of the plant. As I say, between 4 and 10 flowers, white flowers in a whorl around the square stem. And there are whorls at 1, 2, possibly 3 levels, depending on the plant. So if we peer into the upper hood of the plant, we can see 4 stamens, 2 long and 2 short. And if we just turn this one, we should see the 4 stamens out here. So the upper hood is strongly curved and it contains 4 stamens, 2 long and 2 short. The 5th structure present in the hood is the stigma and style hidden behind the stamens, and it consists of a long pointed structure with an icicle-like projection. The lower lip contains a landing pad, which I don't know if you can see, for where the insect lands. And all of around the stem we have 4 to 10 of these little flowers surrounding the square stem. And as I say, the upper hood is strongly curved. It has a ring of hairs just up in the top part, and the lower portion of the lip is a landing pad for the insect to land on. So that's just a little bit of morphology of the flower. I don't know if we can see this because I'm poking and filming at the same time, but there is the hooded form of the plant here in the form of a hood, and the upper and lower petal. So, as always, before we embark on our journey into the field, we look at the features and characteristics which will enable us to identify and find it. As always, we include a detailed botanical slide for those of you who may wish to study the plant further, and the slide may be stopped at any point to consult the information. So, let us take a fleeting fly through with the floristics of some macro shot. This type of whorled fluorescence is botanically termed vertilicaster. Here we see between 4 and 10 flowers arranged axially around the square stem. Here in the upper corolla we see 4 stamens, 2 long and 2 short, with the arrangement of hairs. And what wasn't particularly visible on the field visit due to the limitation of the lens was the fifth structure, which was the stigma and style, which is seen here with a sharp point and a right angle icicle-like structure coming off it. In this image, using a different lens, we see that the stamens split vertically, liberating pollen, and we also see the arrangement of hairs in the stamen head, which are longer, and the shorter glandular hairs on the filament. They are intentional light brown markings on the side petals and lower lip, and not, as first thought, vegetative withering. White dead-nettle, like most of the Lamiaceae, is zygomorphic in form. That is to say, it is bilaterally symmetrical, as opposed to actinomorphic, which has more than one radial plane of symmetry. The Family Lamiaceae is somewhat masterful in varying the evolutionary blueprint specific to the pollination circumstances. For example, variation in the floral pattern and form in the mints, as well as variation in colour, red, purple, blue, yellow or white, and in addition the various essential oils contained in the plant itself. In the following slide we contrast a number of actinomorphic flowers in various families, which are radial in more than one plane of symmetry. The symmetry of the flower often dictates which pollinator will pollinate it and how it will approach it. The white dead-nettle is known by a number of common vernacular names, notably white archangel, blind nettle, honeyflower and bee nettle, and the unusual Adam and Eve in the bar. To see this, we must turn the plant upside down and peer into the hood, where it is said that the white and brown stamens resemble Adam and Eve lying side by side. The Latin binomial is fairly straightforward, with the prefix lamium from the Greek laminos, meaning throat or gullet, and the suffix album, meaning white, referring to the corolla colour. The plant is a plant of wayside and waste places, and is indicative of high levels of nitrogen. The plant stands between 20 and 50 centimetres in height, and it is a rhizomatous herbaceous perennial plant whose flowers are bilaterally symmetrical, i.e. zygomorphic. The inflorescence consists of whorls of individual flowers of approximately 4 to 10 around the stem, and the botanical term for this is known as vertilicaster. The plant has 5 petals, 2 form the upper hood, 2 form the side petals, and 1 forms the lower large petal. It also has 5 sepals, which tightly bind the corolla into a tube, and the sepals are 9 to 13 millimeters, which form the tube, and the teeth are long and slender. To briefly recap on the reproductive structures, we have 4 stamens in the upper hood, 2 long, 2 short, and sitting discreetly behind the stamens we have a stigma, which is 2-part on a long fork style, 1 spike-like and like an icicle pointing downwards, and we have 1 ovary which is deeply 4-lobed. The plant flowers between May and December. White dead-nettle could potentially be confused with a plant such as white horehound, but differs in a number of respects, notably the notch in the upper hood and the morphology of the leaves. Speaking of leaves, let us outline the vegetative characteristic of white dead-nettle. The leaves are nettle-shaped, which are 3 to 8 cm in length and 2.5 to 5 cm in width, and are broadly triangular with a rounded base. They are softly hairy and sharp to a point. The margins are strongly toothed and bright green in colour, with a serrated margin and a petiole or leaf stalk up to 5 cm in length. The opposite paired leaves alternate up the stem at right angles and are non-stinging. And for reference, we compare the leaf colour and leaf margins of common nettle. The stem of white dead-nettle is hollow, hairy and square in form like most of the Lamiaceae. The opposite leaf pairs alternating up the stem are best seen in the video clip to follow. And finally, the fruit of white dead-nettle, which splits into 4 nut-like parts, which are 3-angled and the tip is squarish, and is approximately 2.5 to 3 mm in size. The seeds yield 1 per segment and are not released. So let us observe these features and allow the plant to speak for itself. Well folks, that's all from me and this wondrous white of Wayside. Once again, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you have liked or enjoyed this video or found it interesting or educational, please like, share and subscribe to help us bring another in the series. Finally, we leave you with a top tip from Maggie, our international symbol of floral appreciation. If you have a big nose, keep it well away from stinging nettles. Whatever the weather may be, get outdoors and enjoy it.